A lot of things are turning 25 this year, whether it's this century, the greatest album known to man, or your childhood crush you haven't seen in years. But enough about that. I want to talk about my 5 favorite movies turning 25 this year. Welcome to Movies with Omosh. Let's get into it. For my first pick, we have Memento. There's no way I would talk about movies from the year 2000 and not mention this movie. A story told in reverse order about a man with short-term memory loss trying to avenge the death of his wife. The premise alone is enough for a really good thriller. And then you add in the fact that the story is told in both reverse and forward direction. This movie becomes a mind-bending puzzle piece where you're constantly on the edge of your seat, trying to piece together clues and understand every character's motivation and whether or not they can be trusted. And by the end, you're not even sure if you can trust the main protagonist himself. It explores a lot of themes, including identity and the fine line between objective and subjective memory. This to me is a head scratcher to this day, and I'd urge everyone to go and give it a try. For the second pick, we have Battle Royale. Now listen up. Before we had Hunger Games, Maze Runner, Divergent, and the likes, we had this movie. Battle Royale is a heart-pumping, bloody, violent affair about a group of Japanese teenagers placed in a death tournament in a deserted island by a fascist government regime. Each student is given a weapon and a neck collar fitted with a bomb just in case they go out of line. Their goal is to kill each other until one of them remains. This movie takes the violence and brutality of a John Woo action movie and blends it with the paranoia and interpersonal drama of these teenagers trying to navigate their newfound situation. Some form alliances, some betray each other, some even try to rage against the machine. In the end, I guarantee you will have witnessed one of the greatest Japanese action movies of the 21st century. Next up, we have Dancer in the Dark. Do you like musical but always thought they were a bit too jolly and happy? Then boy, do I have a musical for you. Dancer in the Dark is a grim look at the life of an aspiring artist, played by Björk, who is slowly losing her sight. We follow her in her final moments as she battles through persecution, betrayal, and the decline of her sight as she tries to save her only son from undergoing the same fate as her condition is found to be hereditary. Her only refuge of escaping her grim reality is the comfort she gets from song, dance, and fantasy from musicals she used to watch in the past, which she recreates in her mind from the sound she can hear from objects all around her. This is one of the most unconventional musicals I've ever seen, from the documentary style filmmaking all the way down to the musical choices. It's not going to be for everyone, but it's likely to stick with you for a really long time once you've seen it. Now let's move on to something a bit uplifting for my next pick, Chicken Run. Now I had to have an animated movie on this list at one point, and this is it. Made by the same studio behind those fantastic Wallace and Gromit movies. Chicken Run is a stop-motion animated movie that tells the story about a group of chickens in a farm who are planning to escape their oppressive owner after finding out she plans to slaughter them all. It's a fairly simple story, but what sells it for me is how it uses the comedy to tackle some of the dark subject matter. It's basically a prison break story, but with chickens, an obvious comparison being The Great Escape. The idea of a society rising up against an oppressive system, exploiting them for their labor and resources, and discarding them once they can no longer serve their purpose, is something we can all relate to, but I digress. And the final one, American Psycho. You knew this was coming, but if you've watched the movie, you're not surprised why it's on this list. A movie exploring the mental and psychological decline of a man living a double life, one as a shallow corporate businessman during the day and another as a perverted serial killer at night. I'm not going to continue spoiling the plot of the movie, but it's a dark comedy that explores the human need for individualism in a modern dystopian society where everybody thinks and acts the same and can't care about anything beyond their superficial material needs and social status. It's funny, inventive, and at times surreal, and the central performance by Christian Bale as Patrick Bateman is mesmerizing. The ending is bound to stick with you for a really long time. That's why I think it's one of the best movies from that year. Anyway, that's my list. What are some of your favorite movies from the year 2000? If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. I'll see you guys in the next one.